Okay, good evening. So for the first topic, you'll have to take notes. From second topic, it will be all what you can say notes that we have uploaded that you'll have to go through. First topic, there is some value additions. That is the reason. And second reason for first topic, if you take down a bit, if you write a bit, it will get a better understanding of the topic. So take down the topic as first as the introduction to political thought. Introduction to political thought and political theory. Introduction to political thought and political theory. Political thought and political theory. There you take down first one as what is meant by political thought. What is meant by political thought. So under that you take down, it's a description of political ideas. It's a description of political ideas from a host of political philosophers, belonging to a particular age and a particular place. Belonging to a particular age and a particular place. Next point to take down, in sum total, these are ideas. In sum total, these are ideas related to politics. In sum total, these are ideas related to politics, state. In sum total, these are ideas related to politics, state and government. Politics, state and government. So understanding, so the keywords in the sentence what you took down, it is a set of ideas belonging to host of political philosophers belonging to a particular age and particular place. Why? Because when you say Greek political thought, it belongs to a particular age and a particular place. And you can say in sum total, what ideas are these? We are not looking at ideas of biology, physics, or we are looking at ideas related to politics, state and government. That is what we consider as a political thought. Next to take down, political thought attempts to identify values, norms that make them inseparable from the part of political tradition. Inseparable part of political tradition. So understand what do you mean by a political thought. So same way we say Greek political thought. Here we identify the values, norms and traditions that belong to that particular time period. Indian political thought, again we focus on one, understanding the values, norms which make that particular politic inseparable. So when we are reading a political thought, we are reading a set of ideas given by a set of scholars belonging to a particular time period, particular age, and their ideas related to politics, what they have identified, the values, norms that make inseparable part of their political tradition. That is the meaning of political thought. Now same way there is this word called as political theory. Now we need to understand what is a political theory. So in a political theory you can have two types of theories, as I told. One, it can be normative, the other can be empirical. So usually we say the philosophical part of politics, political philosophy. There is also something called as political science. There is a difference between two. So theory can comprise of both. Okay, so later, not now, now we are reading Western political thought, but later when we read the topic, again we come back to the same topic called as Introduction to Political Theory. That time you will read how the subject has evolved. Okay, so largely you can find initial period the subject was more tilted towards philosophy. It was more about norms, it was more about values, etc. But with time you can say scientific elements of the subject also started to become predominant. So especially in 1940s or 1950s, the end of Second World War, that time you can say there was this development in this field where there was mad craze for making the subject scientific. They told no, we have to make it scientific. Why? Because political science had lagged behind other subjects like sociology, psychology, because they had brought a lot of scientific elements, made their subject more interdisciplinary in character. So now that is when this scholar called as David Easton, he told why should we live on parasitically age-old ideas. Means he told these ideas given by Plato, Aristotle, they are all relevant at those times. They are not relevant for understanding the problems of the present. So he told for present you understand, we have to also develop certain what we call as methods which are scientific methods. Okay, so that is when you can say we find the what we call as the behavioral revolution happened in field of political science. Now they are told even we want to make the subject scientific, and that is why science or empiricism started becoming dominance. The problem what happened with that was that the subject completely tilted towards what? Making it only facts based, only making it scientific methods what you want to bring for your studies. Like what do you mean by scientific methods? Like if you take exit poll, opinion poll, these are all done based on using mathematical formula, scientific methods are used. You're going to they're not completely based on philosophy. Right, you know how an exit poll is, and they'll take a sample size of the voters in that regard. They will take certain mathematical formula and see that how many percentage of people, what opinion is there. Based on that, they're going to make a prediction. But the problem here was that they wanted to make it pure science, like how you have chemistry, how you have physics, how you have mathematics. But that is when one more problem started, saying that if you try to make this subject completely scientific by nature, it will also lose its relevance. Why? Because political science is not a natural science, it is social science. In any kind of social science, there can't be only description or explanation, there should be also some prescription. Prescription means, okay, the purpose of building a theory is to say, okay, how can we make our society better? And when the moment it comes to the question, how can we make our society better, it comes into the area where you have to prescribe certain values, saying that, okay, what is a good government? It comes into the phase of good or bad. Good or bad is always based on values. And that is when they decided, okay, we can't make the subject only scientific, we have to also make the subject value oriented. And that is when there was one more movement that came called as post behavioralism. It was nothing but bring back the role of values, but they are not telling facts we are living out, they are telling facts should be there. So with the rise of post behavioralism, that is when we say the fact value dichotomy ended. Means now there is no longer fight saying that whether facts are important, whether values are important, they told both are important. So any political theorist who is here, who presents his theory in that regard, he has to use both empirical methods and also normative approaches to build his theory. Okay, and his theory what he is going to build, it is not only to make it scientific, that theory should be also relevant to solve the problems of the time. Okay, because if you take 1970s or 1980s in America, especially these all developments happened in America, there was a growing sense of feminist movements, black feminism or etc. They told, okay, why means now you are not able to solve these problems, why you are not able to solve, the theorists or the thinkers, they are not looking into the normative aspects. And that is when post-behaviorism said both facts and values are equally important, and that is why you have a scholar called as Andrew Hacker who said every political theorist is both a philosopher as well as a scientist. He plays both role. He plays the role of a scientist, he also plays the role of a philosopher. Like philosopher, you take Plato. Plato is very enriched with philosophy. What is the role of a scientist? Also present scientific evidence to the facts or data what you collect. So that is why today political theory, it includes both philosophy as well as science. But for that first we need to understand what is a political theory. Then we can go into what is philosophy and what is political science and what is the difference between the two. Okay, but we won't go into now behavioralism and all, that will come back when we do the approaches. Now it's just to understand the basic facets. So take down next as political theory. Political theory. So here you take down political theory. Political theory is not only a theory of politics. Political theory is not only a theory of politics, but it is also considered as the science of politics. It is not only considered as a theory of politics, but it is also considered as what? Science of politics. Science of politics. Next to take down. Before understanding political theory, before understanding political theory, so before you understand political theory, what you have to know? First of all, what is a theory? Before understanding political theory, one needs to understand what is a theory. Before understanding political theory, one needs to understand what is a theory. Theory means any subject. We have different subjects. So there might be economic theories, there might be social theories, there might be political theories, etc. So according to Arnold Becht, according to Arnold Brecht, according to Arnold Brecht, theory in broader sense, according to Arnold Brecht, theory in broader sense. Okay, see, for example, this is only for information. Don't worry about reading about Arnold Brecht, because they won't ask a question say that comment on political, then you start your answer with. This is only for your understanding. But I will tell you where scholars you need to quote. Okay, this is only for basic understanding. According to Arnold Brecht, setting on theory in broader sense means, it means a thinker's entire teaching, thinker's entire teaching on a subject, a thinker's entire teaching on a subject, including thinker's entire teaching on a subject, including description, of facts, his explanation, his conception of history, his value judgment, conception of history, his value judgment, and proposed goals. Proposed goal. So let us think you have different theories, right? You have Mackinder who has given the heartland theory, or you have what you can say, yeah, you have what do you call this, Aryan invasion theory that is given in history, or you have in geography what you call as uh, continental drift theory given up. So if you look into a theory in general, what it means, a thinker's entire teaching of that subject, and it includes what, description of facts. He might have given facts saying that what is the current, why the continents are drifting. He might have given explanation to it. He might also have got conception of history, means sometimes they'll use history to explain how things have evolved, or it can also include their value judgment, means his particular values, his particular norms might have shaped that particular theory, and his proposed goals, means he might explain what will be the outcome of it. So that is basically what we call as a theory, according to whom, Arnold Brecht. Okay, then you take down next paragraph. Theory is not merely a description. Theory is not merely a description. Means what we are trying to say is that when we look at the theory, we cannot tell theory's only role is to describe things. Theory can also do other things, because description is part of thinking. Every theory is a thinking of a person. In that one part of the thinking is what, describing things, but the other part of thinking is what, discovery also. You can discover new things. So theory does not only mean description, because describing is only part of the thinking, because describing is only part of the thinking, its other parts include discovering, determining, augmenting, explaining, and framing a phenomenon. So basically theory does not only include the description part, it also includes determining, discovering. Okay, what do you mean by discovering? So let us think you find a pattern that you can project that as your theory, meaning you have this theory which says that usually those countries which have what you can say, first past the post system, in most of these countries you will have two-party system. Wherever you have proportional representation, single transferable vote, there usually you will have multi-party system, but always there are exceptions to theories, because India does not fit into this thing. But this is something that has been observed by something called as what, Duverger's law. A scholar called as Maurice Duverger, he determined it. Okay, this is how political systems function. Or let us think there is also theories where you can take, you also observe that, like for example in a we say elitist theory of democracy. It's a theory which make observation, says that usually in democracies power will not always lie with every section of society, power will lie only with some section of the society. Now that's a discovery, you can say. For that you might use case studies to explain that thing, and you will also explain means why this is happening like this, but explanation comes from that scholar's point of view. Okay, for example you have Robert Michels, who says that iron law of oligarchy means in most of the democracies, if you see, the power was always concentrated in the hands of the few who are, means he says those individuals who have certain capacities such as oratory skills, who are very courageous, they will acquire power, not everybody will acquire power. So basically theory is not only doing the explanation part, it is also doing the discovery part, determining part, augmenting part, explaining part. Understood? So theory include so many aspects to it. Next, you take down. Theory is not a hypothesis. Theory is not a hypothesis. What do you mean by a hypothesis? Imaginary, imaginable. Hypothesis is like a prediction, you can say, something you are assuming. See, whenever you do a research, you can start your research on a hypothesis, saying that this is happening because of this reason, but you have to go on to prove it. Hypothesis does not have definiteness to it. There is no guarantee that what you are telling is. See, for example, what is hypothesis? You can say whenever cricket match is there on Sunday, India will 100% win the match. That's a hypothesis what you are telling me. It might not be, some person might prove you wrong by saying that these are the facts it says. But for a theory, it can't be based only on hypothesis, because hypothesis lack definitiveness to it, whereas a theory should have a definitiveness to it. That is why we say theory is not hypothesis. So take down. Theory is not a hypothesis because hypothesis, theory is not hypothesis because hypothesis is based on tentative assumption. Hypothesis is based on tentative assumption. So now, what is a hypothesis? You can tell, you join Insights PSIR, 100% you will get selected. That is a hypothesis. It's a tentative assumption what you make. You are getting the point. So for hypothesis to prove, you need to have definitiveness. In that sense, okay, see, everything what is a hypothesis you are making, for that you will have to provide evidence. In that sense, okay, fine. Who is clearing in the first place? Is it the classroom student or is it the test series student? Okay, what is a guarantee that fellow cleared just because he took a class here? Means, are you able to prove that because of taking a class, he is clearing here? There might be other reasons also. He might have cleared without taking a class. What is a possibility? What is a guarantee for that? Theory can't be based on these kind of assumptions. It's a tentative assumption, hypothesis. Theory will be based on definitiveness. So take down. Hypothesis is based on tentative assumption, whereas a theory has definitiveness to it. Whereas a theory has a definitiveness to it. Definitiveness to it. So this is what we can describe the features of a theory. Now you take on political theory. Political theory, according to Blue Hen. Political theory, according to Blue Hen. Now you understand. Here this scholar will be important. While see, it's your wish, because there are 100 people who have given 100 definitions for political theory. Means you open any book or open net and you can say how many people have described political theory. You will find more than 50 names who have described. So obviously you can't read and by heart 50 names. All you have to do is that pick one or two names. So tomorrow when there is a question on political theory, let be question anything, discuss political theory. Your introduction should start with somebody or a thinker who is describing what is political theory. Or many times what they will ask a question, a thinker statement, they will give it as a statement, then they will ask you to comment on it. Get a point? So that's why I am telling, don't go for burdening yourself with too much of content. Okay, what will happen with too much of content? You lack clarity what to be used where. When you have minimal content, one advantage you have more clarity which content has to be used where. So plain and simple, tomorrow, see that is how you prepare for mains. Mains is not just you keep on reading and going. Whatever you read for mains, you have to have clarity regarding that. Where am I going to use this when I write an answer? That clarity. If you don't have clarity, saying that I'm just reading because just there it is there in the notes, then your preparation is completely on a wrong strategy. That you might not realize now only, it might take time for you to get hold of where what can be used. Because once we start integrating previous year questions, then you will come to know, okay, definitions can be by hearted, introduction can be pre-prepared, conclusion can be pre-written. All you have to do is the fitting job in an examination hall. There if you are sitting and thinking that okay, I am now going to manufacture an introduction, that is never going to happen. You are getting the point. So one of my senior was there, he was in DYSP, okay, but he had given 4 UPSC interviews when I was preparing. So that is what he made me understand what exactly is means. He told, imagine yourself as a cook who is going to serve food. You have to serve food based on what is the order that has been given by the customer. So he told, you can't take pre-prepared food. Okay, it is not your roadside stand, where only chitrana is there, idli is there, what is your option you are going to take? Outside it is like that, na? Either you buy chitrana or idli, that is the 2 things we have. If we want to eat, you eat or get out. It's like a restaurant. You can order anything. The cook has to prepare it. So he told, what you can take to the examination hall is ingredients, salt, pepper, whatever, vegetables. Now based on what is the order he gives, mix that, serve it. So when I read bit of economy, when I read bit of polity, when I read bit of history, when I read bit of culture, when I read bit of geography, I take bits and pieces with me to the examination. I can't expect for him to ask a question exactly how we have given in a classroom notes. They won't ask also. They might randomly ask a question. But since you know bit of history, since you know bit of culture, you know bit of economy, now mix your knowledge what you have and try to address what they have asked. So that's why you will have to know what are those ingredients that are required actually to be taken to the examination hall. Because if you dump too much and go, problem will be also finding what is the right set of ingredient in the given time. So how do you decide what should be the ingredients taken based on the previous orders that has been given? If you refer 7-8 years ka question paper, you get to know what this customer usually asks for. So if you know, okay, sometimes they've asked this, okay, I will take this ingredient a bit. But without this ability, if you just prepare, like a horse that it has been blown, you won't clear the exam. Why? Because you won't clear, you lack the capacity to be spontaneous on the spot. You can't come because you won't get there. So you will take 5 minutes time to think what is the introduction I am going to write. By the other time, the topper or whoever is it, he would have already pre-decided, okay, if this is the question or this is the topic, this is my introduction, it is fixed. Let us say PM, they'll ask a question. My introduction is fixed. If they ask a question on PM, Ivor Jennings calls PM as the sun around which all planets revolve. Fixed. If they ask any question on PM and his powers, this will be my introduction. If there is any question on Panchayat, my introduction, especially in political science, will be connected to Gandhi's idea of Gram Swaraj. I am not telling everybody should write the same. You can have your own unique thing. See, sometimes what will happen, everybody will base their same introduction on the same notes that has been provided. So let us say in a class of 100, all 100 people are writing the same thing. Obviously your answer won't stand out. There will be nothing unique in it. So once in a while when you are reading, you will come across something new. You can add it, okay, this will be my introduction. Got it? And usually in political science, that's what I told, introduction in certain cases, like these kind of political theory, you can start with a definition. There is no single definition here. You have mind, why there is no single definition? This is not science. You have mind, this is social science. Why it is social science? Now if I ask her, what do you see? She might tell, sir, bottle is full of water. She might say, no sir, she is wrong. Bottle is 3/4 of water. Or he might say, no sir, both are wrong. The bottle is full, 3/4 by water, 1/3 by air. Or she might say, sir, that is not a bottle only. For me, it is not appearing that way. Every person can describe things in their own perspective. That is social science for you. Science is different. 2 plus 2 has to be 4, nothing else. Social science is not like that. It depends upon how you look at things. So that's why when you look at in the social science subjects, when you like one topic, there will be 100 definitions for it. Why? Because different people are looking at things differently. So that's why I told we don't need to know, but if you find there are different perspectives, you can know 2-3 perspective. What is the definition? So here, take down one definition. What is that? Blue Hen says that political theory stands for an abstract model of political order, abstract model for political order, and a guide to systematic collection and analysis of political data. Systematic analysis of political data. So this has been given by whom? Luhen. This is his definition of what you mean by a political theory. It stands for a distinctive model of political order and a guide to systematic collection and analysis of a political data. So if you look at his definition, it is more on terms of political science. He is defining what is a political theory. Same way, you take down Andrew Hacker he said political theory in ideal term is a dispassionate and a disinterested study of political phenomenon. Dispassionate and disinterested study of a political phenomenon. Now here, what can we make sense of what Andrew Hacker is saying? It is a dispassionate, disinterested study of political phenomenon. Why does he say it is a dispassionate and a disinterested study? No, definitely not. Neutral analysis. That's a difference between a politician and a political theorist. Okay, so one of the purpose of studying political science can be also that you want to become a political theorist. Tomorrow you can also do a research and give a theory. But any kind of such study or any kind of that what you can say, now you don't know, data collection what you make, it has to be dispassionate, disinterested. Means you should not have any kind of personal agendas, or you should be not interested in any kind of political outcomes that will favor your interest. So for example, let us take when exit polls can go wrong, or why opinion polls can go wrong. Maybe there might be also issues connected to what not properly collecting the data, or when you have chosen the sample size, you have not chosen the correct sample size. Okay, see for example, let us take Vinay sir. wants to make a research, not a research, let us get an opinion of this class, saying okay, how political science classes are happening in Insights. He will tell you only collect the feedback. You only collect the feedback and tell. For me, it might not be a dispassionate interest. I might be always fixed saying that I have to get an opinion from the students, it should be positive. So what I can do when I do that kind of research, I purposely pick students who are in favor of me, ask their opinion, ask for their feedback, and then exploit it and say that this is the opinion of the whole class. Why? Because you have a particular agenda. You already fixed in your mind. The result should be this. Numbers and all you are just adding up to show, okay, this is how the result are going to come. Or even if you take, for example, now Kumar Swamy in that regard, if you ask him even today or tomorrow, saying that if elections will happen in Karnataka, how much JDS will get? He will tell, we will get Bahumata. 100% we are going to form the government, because he is a politician. But a political theorist should state facts. He is not keen on understanding which party should come to power. He is not interested in that. Where will be the bias? You have internal bias saying that you have a party in mind and you want that party to come to power. So maybe when you do a research, you will fudge the facts and data saying that okay, fine, this is how the exit polls are showing. But for a political theory, it should be a disinterested and a dispassionate search for understanding that political phenomenon. So that is what Andrew Hacker says, that is a key quality of a political theorist. He should not be biased or he should be neutral. That is why he says values have to be removed, because the moment values come in, there is a preference. You understand? That is why this will again, if you see Andrew Hacker in that regard, again he also says science is also important aspect of a political theory. That is why he says what? It is a dispassionate, disinterested understanding of a political phenomenon. Understand the two definitions, that how do they define what is a political theory. Next you take on the implications of a political theory. Means we need to understand what does the political theory imply, what does that it mean. Implications of political theory. One you take on political theory largely deals with the realm of politics. Political theory largely deals with the realm of politics. So when we say here largely realm of politics, so we need to mean what do we mean by realm of politics. Take on that is political life of a citizen. That is political life of a citizen. Political life of a citizen. Political behavior. Political behavior of the citizen. Political behavior of a citizen. Then political ideas. Political ideas. And the government he seeks to establish. Political ideas and the government he seeks to establish. So one of the core component of political theory is that understanding the political life of an individual in a particular state, his behavior, his preferences, what shapes his behavior. Next implication, political theory involves methods. Means to build a theory, you need to have methods, right? It involves methods such as description, explanation, investigation, description, explanation, investigation of a political phenomenon, Now we say people in India vote their caste. That's a description of Indian politics, but we also have to be able to explain that why this mechanism happens. We will be also able to investigate, means make inquiries into how does this happen, how does it manifest, why it plays a key role. Even though we can say people are educated, still why do they prefer for their particular caste candidate? That's one of the work of the political theorist. Next point. Political theory also tries to understand politics. In relation to other areas, such as social, economical, psychological, ecological, etc. Meaning when we build a political theory, we cannot only focus on politics only. Politics can also come in relation to other areas. For example, there is a topic or a subject what we call as political sociology, meaning that what it's generally said, there is no politics without society, there is no society where there is no politics. So every political mechanism in every country or every society is influenced by the social forces. So for example, to understand Indian politics, you need to understand India's social structure. Same way, there is also an area called as political economy. Economy also shapes politics. For example, 88% of India's MPs in the current Lok Sabha are all crorepattis. Money plays a key role in Indian elections. Or state can also bring policies that are connected to economics of individuals. For example, budget which is brought by the government, but it has an impact on your household economics. So that is why we say politics cannot be separated from economics. Or if you like Marx's holistic study, entirely he told what? Politics is completely shaped by economic forces. Means what he told, one who controls economic power will naturally get political power. Same way we can say, to understand political phenomenon, we need to understand psychology of the people also. For example, rise of Hitler in Germany, it was not that Hitler was a dictator or etc. Hitler rose through democracy. Then he went on to become a dictator. You need to understand the psychology of the people, like what was the psychology of people at that point of time that largely shaped their support to Hitler. So psychological aspects are also there. Politics and psychology needs to be studied. Behavioralism, to study people's behavior. Or ecological. So today when we look at climate change negotiation, politics need not be only domestic politics, it can be also international politics. So today when we look at climate change, there is also say politics of climate. What is the politics of climate? Today state policies can also determine the environmental impact, or state can also bring policies to protect you from environmental impact. So today developing countries of the world, they are asking the developed countries of the world that you have to transfer technology, funds to developing countries for them to move towards carbon neutral economy. So politics is everywhere. Politics is with respect to politics is largely shaped by social forces, economic forces, psychological angle, and also ecological angle. Right? For example, let us take a Brahmaputra river dispute between India and China. It's not an ecological issue, it's a political issue between India and China. We need to resolve it with China. Got it? So that is what political theory, it also tries to understand politics in relation to social, economical, psychological, ecological and historical, you can go on like that, etc. Next to take down, the objective of political theory, the objective of political theory, the objective of political theory is to achieve to build a good state and society. Good state and society. What do you mean by that? So every theory what we have to bring, political theory, it should have a end purpose. What should be the end purpose? It is to be looked to build what is an ideal society. So we need to do prescription. Prescription means, let us take Plato. Plato gave his theory of philosopher king, but what is the end purpose? For him, that was an ideal society. So that is also one of the objective, or should be the objective of a political theorist. Next to take down, political theory will also suggest values as rules of human conduct. Values of rules of human conduct, meaning that what? The other purpose of political theory is also to prescribe values, to say that what values one should adopt to become an ideal human conduct. So for example, let us take the idea of human rights. What is the idea of human rights? It basically says it's not only the rights what you enjoy, it also signifies the way a particular human being should behave towards a fellow human being. So there might be multiple theories with respect to human rights, saying that why human rights is very essential. So if you look at now the description what we gave for political theory, you can say some description points out towards the role of scientific component. Now towards the end what you are taking down, it is pointing towards what? Normative aspect, prescribing role of values. That is why we say political theory comprises of both political philosophy as well as political science. That is why Andrew Hacker, what he says, that every political theorist is partly a philosopher and partly a scientist, because he is doing both work of what? Describing, explaining, prescribing. Got it? Describing and explaining largely comes under the sphere of political science. Prescribing largely comes under the sphere of political philosophy. So take down next point. So hence we can see that political theory is both prescriptive as well as explanatory. It is both prescriptive. You know the meaning of prescription, right? What is the difference between explanation and prescription? So let us think you will come and tell I am not writing my answer well. I will tell, okay, this is the explanation for it. You have not read well. That is why you are not writing well. But the job of a mentor is not only explaining things, it is also to prescribe you that what you have to do to become better. Simple terms. That is also the role of a political theorist. It is both explanatory and what? Prescriptive. So 10 down, hence this implies that political theory comprises of political philosophy and what? Political science. It comprises of political philosophy and political science. Hence we say that a political theorist is both a philosopher as well as a scientist. Hence we say that political theorist is both a philosopher as well as a scientist. Understood? What do you mean by a political thought? What do you mean by a political theory? Now one part is not just reading. Okay, so see, for succeeding in anything, you need to get the technique correct. Any field, let us say you want to go into movie industry, you have to know acting well. Simple, that is what history shows. Any successful actor who has been there long time in an industry, he has to show some amount of acting skills should be at least there. So you won't find anybody surviving in the industry who does not have acting skills. They might come for 1 movie, 2 movie, 3 movie, disappear. There might be certain parameters to an actor, maybe looks you can say, but look is not the only parameters, because you have, like if you take Kannada film industry, you have Jagesh who has been in the industry for a long time, whereas look is definitely not his part of strength. So obviously to succeed in any field, you have to know certain techniques and you have to use it to your strength. Same way like in cricket, if you take why Virat Kohli went on to become one of the greatest batsmen, technically sound. So to succeed in any exam, your technique of study also matters a lot. It is not only how much time you invest on studying, because that's what I told you, can't be a romantic, you have to be more a realist in the sense how quickly I need to exit from here, and to exit from here I need to crack the exam. So your mind always should be functioning in such a way that what should I do that get me marks in the exam. Nothing else should run in your mind. So you can't tell I have the liberty of studying for 2 years, I will study everything, my knowledge will grow, I will become knowledgeable. What you will do with that knowledge if you are not in the list? Simple, this is not some degree, that's why this is not PhD. You cannot think that I will study for 3 years, okay, after 3 years of experience of studying here, where you will use that experience? Even if you want to come to teaching, they will ask you, have you given an interview? Where you will use it? You cannot go and tell, I will become political consultant. Today there are hundreds of them consulting the government, and obviously they come with degrees. For example, I have National Law School, public policy. There will be people from London School of Economics. So why will they pick you? Or if you tell I am going to sell Pani Puri, or you go ask this Pani Puri fellow, give me a job, what is your credential? I have prepared for UPSC for, he will tell what will I do with that? It literally does not count to anything, saying that I have gained knowledge, I have gained Gnan. Or you will be one of the buyers in Chandra Layout. Library Anna will be there. ನಮ್ಮ ಅಣ್ಣ ಹೇಳೋನೆ ಹಿಂಗೆ ಓದಬೇಕು, ಅಣ್ಣನೇ ಪಾಸ್ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ 5 ವರ್ಷದಿಂದ, ತಮ್ದಿರೋ ಅವನು ಸುತ್ತಮುತ್ತ ಹೆಸರುಕೊಂಡು. You're getting the point. So the problem that what happens is that Because you are not competitive, and this is a competitive exam. This is not a degree exam. Why I say it is a competitive exam? Every one of you cannot become IAS. That's the truth. Some of you might go on to become an IAS. Degree, if it was a degree, I would have told every one of you can be a degree holder. One can get 90%, other can get 40%, but still you are ended up degree. You have a degree. After some years, that also does not matter. Once you get into the industry, nobody will tell. Nobody will introduce you later. This fellow is 90% engineer. This fellow is 50% engineer. It doesn't matter that he is working in Cognizant, he is working in Infosys. But in this field, it doesn't work that way. Either you are in the list or either you are not in the list. Nothing else will count. And everybody can't be in the list, because so many positions are not there. So who will succeed in the exam are those people from day one who are conscious of the fact that why we have come here, not to get none, along with some gnaan, to develop our abilities to crack the exam. And what are those abilities that are required to crack in the exam? It's very simple, it's straightforward question. You have to just get your eyesight clear. Prelims. There are 4 options. Answer is right in front of me. I have to be able to identify which is the right answer. Do you have that skill? Why I say it's a skill? Knowledge everybody will read. Everybody of you have read polity, and every one of you have read environment. Many of you read the same books what the topper has read. Many of you have read vision material which even the topper might have read. But still, why all of them are not in the list? Because there is a difference in the application of the knowledge. There are techniques where you can identify what is the right option. Sometimes too much knowledge will cloud your common sense. So for example, let us say I have this student, she is from National Law School, political science, very smart, very intelligent, first attempt she is going to be, but many times even the best can get clouded. Oh, so there is this question about human rights. They have asked some question in some prelims paper. Which is the biggest debate or something cleavage in human rights? Option they have given: nation right versus minority rights. Option B, they have given women rights versus right to equality. Option 3, they have given religious right versus civil rights. Option 4, they have given political civil rights versus socio-economic rights. Now she told, sir, it should be national rights versus this rights. She is National Law School political science, law student. Now why this happens is that you are thinking too much. You are not thinking from common sense point of view. Answer is D. There is nothing else to think about. There is nothing called as national rights. There is national sovereignty. Women rights and right to equality is not at all an option. There is not a clash. Women should get those rights. That is equal. There is no conflict there. No human right activist is telling that should we give women rights or it will lead to right to equality. Yeah, whenever it comes to religious right and civil right, it is civil right that gains significance. The biggest conflict in human rights is that how do we bring a balance between political and civil rights and social rights? Pure common sense question if you apply common sense in the exam. Now you cannot see, you can read only basic, what is a human right. But in exam when question comes, that's why I told application should be good. So unless you are working on that application part, if you are just reading part, same way if you come to mains, what is the main thing in mains? Write the answer. Yeah, you have to be analytically good, able to write an answer within 150 words or whatever, 250 words for the given marks within this given time. Do you have that skill? Yeah, I am not asking you have to be the most knowledgeable person on the earth. You have some basic knowledge, you know something about everything. But do you have the capacity or the capability to stitch up a 150 word answer within a given time? And when that skill will grow, if you have practiced some 100 to 200 or let us say 500 question before you give the mains exam, Of course that skill will come. And how that skill will come? Now this topic what we read, simple. Now we read what is political theory, what is political philosophy, or what is political science or political theory, comprised of both. Now your mind should always work. Okay, I have taken down almost, let us say how many words it will down to, more than 400, 500 words. But in the exam I have to write within 150 words. So obviously I have to go back and think what is the question that can come on this topic. See, you have read this topic, you have read what is political theory, what is political thought, but you also have to be conscious of the fact, okay, what is a probable question that can come on this topic? If it is going to come, what I am going to make use of in this content, what I am going to write. So always you have to put questions to yourself or refer PYQ to say that, okay, which way the question can come, that will make you think. Now the question in the exam for this question can come based on the statement what you took down in the end, that what, let us think in exam they will ask the same question. Every political theorist is partly a philosopher and partly scientist. Comment. 10 marks, 150 words they ask in a question. So now what is the problem here for many students that will be that they might know but they can't write. Why they cannot write? They don't know how to start, what to write. Okay, that statement is there in our book, but the notes is not arranged in a way that the question has been asked. That rearrangement we will have to make, or I will have to bring my understanding onto the paper when I am explaining things. That is what we call as, you have to know how to structure your answer. That's what I told, structuring plays a very key part. See, first part of answer writing is knowledge. If you don't know what is political theory, you don't know what is political science, you don't know what is political philosophy, then you can't write an answer at all. It's out of question that you are writing an answer. Let us say you know all this. At least you know something you have taken down. Now I need to structure my answer based on how they have asked the question. So that might not be exactly the same way my notes is. I have to write organically, means use my accumulated knowledge. So when this question comes, obviously I have to have an introduction in my answer saying that political theory, I will write, this is my answer, political theory is a systematic study or understanding of political phenomenon. Then I will write, to understand this political phenomenon, both philosophy and scientific methods play a key role. Half of the answer I will explain what is the role played by science. You have read now, explanation, collection of facts, collection of data, describing a political phenomenon. That's the role of a political theorist. Example you can give, exit poll, opinion poll. Then I will also write, at the same time, the role of a political theorist cannot be just limited to explaining things. He should also bring prescription of certain values. What is an ideal way of human conduct? What is a good society? What is a good state? For this it requires prescribing certain values to put forward. Example, Plato prescribed that what philosopher king is the solution for the problems of the Athens. Then I am going to conclude my answer. In today's time, there is a large understanding among political theories that both science and philosophy are key aspect of this subject. Hence the political theory as a component, it plays explanatory role, descriptive role and prescriptive role. So if you look at this answer, it is not there in your notes. This is what I wrote, I write. This is one thing you need to clearly understand. Don't think that whatever is there in your book, that is exactly the same. That will never happen in UPSC. No matter which subject, which optional, which GS subject you take that. That's the fundamental problem with many students. They want spoon feeding. What is spoon feeding? What is there in the book? I need to cut paste and write it as my answer. Those questions will never come in the exam. Those questions can't come in the exam, and you can never prepare that way. So here you have to build your writing capabilities, and that won't come in 1 day or 2 days. It takes time. It is practice. It is practice. Now it might seem difficult, but over a period of time, if you keep practicing it, automatically the keywords explain. See here, I just wrote my understanding. I never looked into the book and told, okay, where what is given. For that understanding for you to come, first you should have revised this at least 2 to 3 times. Along with looking at previous year question, okay, how questions are coming. You are understanding why is the purpose we say look at PYQs after every topic, because it will give you an idea how I need to prepare my content. So many times I gave examples of philosopher king or do exit poll, which is not there currently in your notes. It is my invention. You understand? So there is no notes in the world where exactly you can write the same way. Any notes is an inspiration, saying that okay, I can use these things in the exam, but you can also add extra, what you can say, contents for it based on the demand of the question. So the question is asking what? They are asking every political theory is partly a philosopher and partly a scientist. So when you look at this statement, I don't look at this statement that where I disagree with this statement. I agree with the statement that has been made. When I am agreeing with the statement, it is my job to explain how that statement is correct. So I have to tell in my answer why a political theorist has to be a scientist, reasons for that. I will also have to tell in my answer why that fellow should be also a philosopher, means why values plays a very key role. Then conclude my answer saying that currently when political theory is presented, the method of study can be both empirical as well as normative. It can have both scientific component and philosophical approaches to it. Answer is done. Simple, 150 words, you end your answer. Got it? So that's why I told this is an only example I told how question can come in the exam based on the topic you have taken down. So that's what I told, for every topic you read, if you are very conscious of the fact that what are the questions that has come and how the questions will come, there is no better preparation than that. That's why I told there is nothing better than PYQs. PYQs is the soul of this exam. But that's what I told, in spite of telling so much, you find 90% of the people, they don't do it. Why? Because this requires discipline. Why discipline? It's a day-to-day thing you will have to do. Many people will be only disciplined for next 5 days. 6th, 7th day, lose your discipline, go back to your old ways. Plain and simple. Did you eat breakfast today? Yes. Usually you can tell I don't eat breakfast. Second, at least you eat lunch or dinner or something. You don't miss it. Same way, did you work on the topics? Did you write PYQs? You looked at PYQs. That should be something, a core component of every topic what to do. And that also gives you clarity that how much content you will require to know about it. See, this is one way question can come. Every political theory is partly a philosopher and partly a science. Another question, they can ask a direct question, straightforward question. Comment on political theory. Ten marks, 150 words. Answer is same. Questions are different, but answer remains same. I will write the same answer again. Political theory is a systematic study of political phenomena, and it comprises of 2 parts, political science and political philosophy. Then I will go on to explain what is the political philosophy component, what is the political science component. Then conclude my answer again saying that both science and or I will use that statement here in my conclusion. The previous question statement is my conclusion, saying that what every political theorist is partly a philosopher, partly a scientist. Other advantage, right, when they give different quotes, it's not that always the quotes are only given based on the sources what you read. They can give a different quote, but the quote meaning will be similar. So many times when you solve PYQs, you can use those quotes, conclusion in your other answers based on the same topic. So any doubt here? What do you mean by what is a political theory thing? Now you take down political philosophy. Political philosophy. So take down political philosophy. Political philosophy is one of the earliest and traditional part, one of the earliest and traditional part of political theory, traditional part of political theory. And you take down in political philosophy, scholars such as Leo Strauss, in his work, What is Political Philosophy? In his work, What is Political Philosophy? This is the work written by whom? Leo Strauss. In his work, What is Political Philosophy? Says all philosophy is not political theory. All philosophy is not political theory, and all political theory is not philosophy. All philosophy is not political theory, and all political theory is not philosophy. Everything that is philosophical is not a political theory, and all political theory are not philosophical, because you have scientific theories also. Now you take on, according to him, philosophy is an abstract study, encompassing the whole universe, in general, and morals, norms and values, in particular which determine the general laws, shaping the governance of the world. General laws shaping the governance of the world. So whenever we speak something that is related to philosophy or philosophical, it can't be determinate, it has to be always abstract. And anything that is philosophy, it will always be connected to something what we call as norms or values. Why norms or values? So let us think there is nothing scientific about it. It will be always about what are the values, or what you feel is good or bad is connected to it. So usually when we say philosophy, we will try to ask questions like, what is the purpose of this life? What is happiness according to us? Or what is sadness? Or what is the meaning of sadness? But now we need to apply this philosophy to what we call as political philosophy. So when you apply philosophy to the realm of politics, that is when it becomes what? Political philosophy. So we need to know now, what do we mean by political philosophy? So take on, Next sentence there. In this regard, political theory, in this regard, political theory is a philosophy. Political theory is a philosophy, which not only seeks, seeks to know the nature of things, but also attempts to explain, why things really exist. So when we apply political philosophy or philosophy to politics, in simple terms we can say what is good, what is bad, what is wrong, what is right with respect to a political order. So that is why we call Plato as the father of political philosophy. Why? Because Plato, largely his theory was what? Prescriptive in character. Correct on? Political philosophy largely does the evaluation part, of knowing what is right or wrong, about a political order. Now we have one more scholar here called as Leo Strauss. Now let us look into what Leo Strauss says that. So take on. Leo Strauss says that political theory as a philosophy is an attempt to replace opinion or assumption about nature of political things, about the nature of political things by true knowledge, So when you read yesterday what I told Socrates, so Socrates believed true knowledge will only come from where? Understanding the world of ideas, because ideas are permanent. So what is the attempt of philosophy is to find what is the truth. So what they say, what political theory as a philosophy, it tries to replace opinions or assumptions of a political order by true knowledge. So for you to achieve a true knowledge, you need to develop what? A philosophical bent of mind. Without a philosophical bent of mind, what will happen? Means where knowledge is replaced by assumptions or opinions. So it's easy to have an opinion. Opinion can be given any by person who is also not knowledgeable. Right? It's your opinion. But every opinion can be taken as a knowledge. Why? Because when you look at philosophical method, that is where we arrive at truth. through what? Discussion, debates, dialectics. Opinion can be given by any person. Today we can look at, so take social media. Every Tom, Dick and Harry can give an opinion on social media, irrespective whether that fellow has knowledge in that particular field or not. So every opinion is not taken as a knowledge. Knowledge also should come from a right source, one who has a broader understanding. So in this context, what we are saying, you need to understand the world of ideas, not the just world of matter. So what Leo Strauss says, that what is the attempt of political philosophy? It is to replace opinion and assumptions of a political order by what? By true knowledge. Got it? So next we take down. However, see now, while reading and while taking down, there are two things you have to keep in mind. For in political science, keep one thing in mind. For everything what you read, there has to be a counter view. Your entire way of writing answers in the exam, in simple terms, it works on the same logic. Thesis, antithesis, and so most of the questions it will apply. Only few questions where you can't apply that logic, because few questions will be directly explained. Few questions will be more on writing on facts. But I told 80% of the questions will be largely working in this mechanism. But you have to be, see, if they give a question, is corruption good for a political system? You cannot write an answer here saying that, okay, how it is good, then write an answer, no, it is not good, then tell, okay. Okay, but if they ask a question, let us take one nation, one election. Your answer will be both sides, saying that one bringing arguments that why one nation, one election is required, what are the positive aspects of one nation, one election, and what are the challenges in bringing one nation, one election. Then you will take a middle path, saying that what has to be done or what can be practically done. Got it? So now you just took down what is a political philosophy, but political philosophy can also have its critic. One of the critic is that you have people like David Easton. He says that why should we, because end of the day philosophy is connected to history, okay, means a lot of historical things we speak out. So he says the problem with philosophy is what? It is very abstract. There is no certainty of things. There is no empirical evidence you can provide to put forward your theory. And secondly, you can say it is always based on values of a particular scholar or a particular individual. And how can it be taken as the absolute truth? Because Greeks told that democracy is the worst form of government. But if you take Winston Churchill, he says that democracy is might be the best form of government, sorry, worst form of government, but it is the best until you have an alternative. Correct? However, political philosophy has been also criticized. Political philosophy has been also criticized for being abstract and metaphysical, being abstract and metaphysical, being abstract and metaphysical. Second point you take down, it is value oriented, it is value oriented, and values can change from person to person, from person to person. And third criticism you take down, philosophical approach cannot be verified. Philosophical approach cannot be verified. So these are the criticism what can we bring regarding political or philosophy. But please remember, whenever you end your answer, most of your answer, try to end it on a positive note. So that is how your note should be also be. So note making, why it is important, if you have made your own notes in a particular systematic way, it becomes much easier to integrate in your answers. So usually in these kind of questions, let us say they ask a question, comment on political philosophy. You are going to write 2-3 points saying that what is philosophy, what is political philosophy, what is the role played by political, it plays the role of prescription, it is value oriented, finding knowledge to replace opinions and assumptions, etc. Then you will write criticism part, that it is not verifiable, it varies from person to person, it is abstract and metaphysical. But then always you have to end on a conclusion saying that in spite of this limitation, one cannot disregard the contribution of political philosophy for the field of political theory. So take down, in spite of these limitations, Leo Strauss believes that evaluational aspects of political activity, evaluational aspects of political theory is as important as the factual aspects. Hence, political philosophy is a core component of political theory. Hence, political philosophy is a core component of political theory. So understood what do you mean by a political philosophy? So in exam, if you see previous year question paper, direct question has come. They have asked one of the year is what? Comment on political philosophy. 10 marks, 150 words. Or one more year, they can ask a question, discuss the limitations of philosophical approach in politics. 10 marks, 150 words. You get a point. So this is one strategy. What I used to do is that once I read a topic, I used to look at as much as questions that has come on that particular topic, what are the different ways a question can be asked. Got it? Or they might ask a question, let us say in future, because you have not yet read decline of political theory and all, but they can ask a question, comment on the decline of political philosophy in the realm of political theory. So at that point of time, you have to write some points related to the limitations of political philosophy, but here we need to give more explanation, why did it decline? Okay, for that you have not yet read. So that is about rise of behavioralism in the field of political theory. When behavioralism rose, they highlighted what are the drawbacks of philosophical approach. They told we have to make the subject a bit more scientific. It can't be just based on evaluative methods, and that is why I told these scholars like Plato, etc. They are speaking about a lot of metaphysical things which are not in reality with the present problems of the time. That you don't worry, that question you can answer later. But these two questions you can answer even now based on what is the component, what you have read. You understanding? So anything you make as a note, because I am telling, that's why I am giving the starting part of the syllabus writing format. Rest of will be what is already written in the notes. But I am telling there will be certain areas you will have to make notes. Because it's not that all 100% will be there in class notes. There will be 80%, 20% you will have to make based on what newer developments. Simple example, today if you have read Indian Express, there is a book review they have given of this book written by Partha Chatterjee. It's a book on Indian politics. That will be very important for exam. Means you don't need to read the whole book. But if you see in coming days, they will give you the review of that book. What are the key ideas given in the book? And Partha Chatterjee is one of an important historian in Indian thing. And his ideas will be very essential for you to integrate in your exam. When these kind of topics come, you will have to know the art of note making. What should be there in my notes? So some people might read 30 pages. but 30 pages will not be important for the exam. You have to make notes in 1.5 page. So you have to know what to pick from that 30 pages. So that structure should be how, what it is, positives, limitations, and a positive conclusion. Understood? What do you mean by a political philosophy? Now same way, what we have to know, what is political science? So take down next component is that political science. Political science. Sorry, political science refers to political science refers to the scientific study of politics. Scientific study of politics. And same here, take on all sciences is not political theory. All sciences is not political theory, as all political theory is not science. All sciences are not political theory, and all political theory is not science. Then you take down important exponents of political science, means who are these scholars who brought scientific approaches to the field of politics. So we call them as exponents. So write down important exponents of political science are Arthur Bentley. He's written this book called as The Process of the Government. The Process of Government. Arthur Bentley, who has written this book called as The Process of the Government. Then you take down George Catlin. He's written this book, The Science and Method of Politics. The Science and Method of Politics. Science and Method of Politics. Then you have David Easton. Who has written this work called as The Political System. David Easton has written this work called as Political System. Then you have Robert Dahl. Who has written this work called as The Modern Political Analysis. Modern political analysis. So these are the important exponents of what? Political science. Now you have to know what are the features of political science. So take down the features of political science. Features of political science. One you take down, it deals with what? Facts. For political science, what are important? Facts are important, not values. Second one, it deals with questions such as what it is. Meaning, when you take philosophical questions, there will be what ought to be. Meaning saying that in political science, what is the important component you are doing? You are explaining things, you are telling this is how it is. But in political philosophy, what you are telling, this is how we should be. So there, what is the question you are raising? What ought to be. Here, what is the question you are raising? What it is. Understanding? Here it is more importance given to facts. Third component, it largely deals with questions such as true or false. It largely deals with questions such as true or false. In political philosophy, what kind of questions you deal with? Good or bad? Because in good or bad, it can be relative. But here it either it has to be true, either it has to be false. Then you can say in political science it is verifiable. What do you mean by it is verifiable? You can cross check it, you can provide evidence for the same. It is verifiable. So this is what we call as the features of political. So largely what kind of function political science performs? Largely it performs the performance of explaining and description. So right on, political science largely performs the function of description and explanation. It largely performs the function of what? Description and explanation. Got it? What do you mean by political science? So understood. What is political theory? Political theory is a combination of both what? Political science and political philosophy. So first you read about what is the features of political philosophy. Now you read about what are the features of political science. Now again, what are the questions that might come in these areas? Same question for political science. They might ask comment on political science, or might they ask a question, what is so scientific about politics? Critically examine. Or they might ask a question like this, compare or not compare, bring out the differences. Bring out the differences between political philosophy and political science. 10 marks, 150 words. Question can be asked. So see, now when you took down political philosophy, you took down a lengthy explanation for it, but in exam you don't have the liberty of explaining so much and all. That's only given for what? The explanation part, reading part. But when I present an answer, I have to present it very systematically. So I'll just give a model way that how I would have written the answer for the same question that is asked in the exam. So I would have written the answer. So this would be my introduction. Okay, but please remember, in exam I won't write something like introduction, I'll directly start the answer. This is only for indicative purpose. Okay, introduction. Political theory is a systematic study of political phenomenon which comprises of both the empirical and normative aspects to the study. Okay, this will be my introduction of my answer. Next, I am going to directly go into political theory comprises of political philosophy. Okay, directly I am going to write in my answer script like this through an arrow mark, and political science. So now I want to see, there is one myth saying that every political science answer should be written in paragraph format. Not necessary, it depends upon the question. So in some question where I want to bring more number of points, I will not go for paragraph format writing, I will go for point format writing. So I write here, political philosophy, it is largely based on values. Political science is based on facts. Political philosophy largely is normative by nature. Political science is empirical by nature. Third, political philosophy largely deals with the question of what ought to be, whereas political science largely deals with the question what it is. Political philosophy largely comes under the framework of good or bad. Here largely it comes under the framework of true or false. In political philosophy, it is not verifiable. Here it is verifiable. In political philosophy, largely we perform the function of prescription. Here largely we perform the function of description. Okay, so this will be my table part. Then I am going to have a conclusion. In my conclusion essay, however, in spite these differences, as Andrew Hacker says every political theorist today is partly a philosopher and partly a scientist. That is going to be my answer, what I am going to write in my exam. So just I gave a live demo of what is to write an answer and what it is to read. Unless you develop your writing capabilities, your goal of becoming an IAS won't happen. See, I won't mince words because I am not a person who is an idealist, I am always a realist. So I don't falsely say everybody can do it. You have to develop your skills, there is no other way. You can be an idealist, you can be in your own world, far away from reality, thinking that somehow you are going to crack the exam. It won't happen. Or if you say, no sir, I'll change my optional, in any optional you go, you'll have to write. There is no optional is going to score marks for you, you have to score in that optional. And just because you took another optional, you won't get 300. And I told, track record, 90% of people don't even write mains. It is irrespective of which option you take. So obviously the problem lies where? The problem lies with our method of study, our approach to exam. See, some people will learn it the hard way. For example, I learned because I failed in 2 mains to understand in 3rd mains what exactly is required. Then only I got my interview call. Some people are very smart, they will understand that in their first attempt itself, knowing at what exactly this exam requires and how we need to prepare. So they focus more on what? 50% knowledge, 50% examination skills. So what I wrote, you won't be able to write immediately. I have the experience of writing multiple mains, teaching for so many years. But I am telling this, you can do it within a month or 2 if you keep practicing. And only if you are ready to come out of your comfort zone. Okay, see, I am not a person who will say that you come sir, I won't be able to study sir, I will tell you don't study. What is happening in UPSC field is that it's more of pampering, more of this small talks saying that sir I can't study sir, what I will do sir, I can't write sir, which pen I will use sir. First you have something in your head, everything will automatically come. Work on that. Don't sit and say sir I can't study sir, I am not feeling. Who told? Sir, I am out from my place is there, sir, I am missing my home. Tomorrow when you are posted in a district, of course you will be outside your house. You will be in a village. Or just, that's why I told. In my experience, in 5-6 years, what I have told, there are very minimal number of candidates who come with that mindset. Maximum of them are sheeps, just following in a line, doing nothing, just morning till night attend class, take down notes, go back home. Which material question are going to come? If that was the case, all your faculties would have been in Mussoorie today, none of them would have been teaching here. If they were gods to predict questions, they would have not been here. First they would have been in Mussoorie. See, that is secondary, that is what you can, fan building. That you can do, you just judge the crowd, know the crowd. It's a Gandhi class crowd, give Gandhi class thing, they will be happy. The reason is that to understand a movie also, you need to have capacity to understand it. That is why Darshan's movie will be always popular among public. Public do not have so much common sense. If you want to see a Girish Karnad movie, you need some essence to understand that. You don't have that essence, that's why that movie will get national award, but it won't run in theatres. Same way here also. Popular, I won't take platform names, popular platforms. Same thing. You know, that is what Eric Hobsbawm, a political scientist, he told. What heroin is to an addict, that is nationalism to a nation. Means you make people addict on something, they are in their own world, they are out. You know what heroin does? It keeps you in this mystical world which is far away from reality. Every time you don't need to literally serve it, people by themselves are in that world. All you need to is nurture it. And that is what you will understand when you read political science, when I told power can be exercised invisibly. You won't see, for example, many of you might have joined the course looking at me, means not looks I am telling, trusting, saying that okay, this fellow what is feeling honest. Maybe who knows, I played you. Maybe I played you saying that okay, fine, is the perfect choice. That's why we say everywhere power is being exercised. Sometimes it is naked, sometimes it is invisible. So that is what we say, for this exam you have to be smart enough to know that how things will work, how things can work. You can't take a lot of time to understand things. What will happen, especially when, see, some problems are, our time was that there was no guidance in that regard, because there was no like insights or there was no popular academies in Bangalore, you have to go to Delhi only. And obviously it took a lot of time to understand what exactly this exam wants. Forget about reading the subject, you need to understand what this exam wants. To understand that only took 2 years. The advantage now is that today, because of digital media or online, everything is available at fingertips. But the only problem is what? People in a problem of plenty. There was a time when there was no thing only. Now the problem is plenty. Plenty why? Because there are 100 strategies in the market. So you get confused which one to follow. So that's why I told the best strategy always go by the previous year questions. And this is how question has come. Compare and bring out the differences between political philosophy and political. Plain and simple, write your answer. Now when I wrote my answer, I didn't look into what is there in my book, what are the thinkers I have to write. Simple, I introduced political theory is a systematic study of political phenomenon which includes both empirical, normative aspects. Then I went on to write, okay, it comprises of 2 parts, political philosophy and political science. Now I draw a table and write what are the key differences. 1, here it is values, there it is facts. Here it is normative, there it is empirical. Here what ought to be, there what it is. Here questions will be asked, good or bad, true or false. There it is going to be what, based on here it is not verifiable, it is based on verification. And then you say, end your answer saying that today it is understood that political theory or every political theorist should be partly a scientist and partly a philosopher. Okay, so this is the first basic topic. What is there? What do you mean by political thought? What do you mean by political theory? What is meant by political philosophy? What is meant by political science? Not perspective, it is prescription. Okay. So prescription means it is not just explaining the problem, also offering a solution to the problem. Description means you are explaining what it is. For example, let us take when you do an exit poll, an opinion poll, what kind of thing you are doing, what kind of activity you are doing, explaining things, or maybe sometimes you can predict things also based on explaining. On what basis you are making that prediction? A scientific analysis. Why we call it a scientific analysis? So when you release your exit poll result, you will also provide the methodology that you have used to collect the data, and you are also explaining people on what basis you are making this prediction that this is going to be the result. That is what function you are doing? Describing. Now, is it any exit poll fellow, he is going and telling, is BJP good for the country, is Congress good for the country, or is some other party is good for the country? No. But when it comes to political philosophy, your job is not only explaining things, you also have to prescribe things. For example, Plato, he did speak about the problems of Athens, but he didn't end his studies there. He also went on to say, what is an ideal society, what is an ideal state. But he described what is an ideal state based on what values, what he believed is right. For him, he believed that democracy is not an ideal form of government. And that is why in his prescription he told, instead of democracy, there should have been a philosopher king. Now that is the core problem of philosophical approach, because values can vary from one person to the other person. Now what is good for Plato might not be good for somebody else. And that is why we say when we deal with political philosophy, it deals with the question good or bad. But when we deal with political science, it deals with pure facts. But holistically, when you look at political theory, we cannot tell a political theory or a systematic study of politics can be only done either on scientific methods, or because if you only limit to scientific methods, then there is no difference between political science and natural science. For every political science, there should be also values, saying that okay, all this study what we are doing scientific data is to build a better society. Now what is that better society? You need to prescribe. So that is why when you write your answer also, when you speak about problems of Indian judiciary, you also make a prescription saying that what is the way forward. That way forward is the philosophical, because you are prescribing, now you are prescribing a code of conduct for judges, you are telling this is good. Got it? So that is what is the difference between description, prescription. Description is more explaining things, prescription is telling what should be done, what is better, what is good. So that is the thing. So political theory comprises of what your mind should be both a political scientist as well as a political philosopher. And that you will understand later when you say modern thinkers like John Rawls, etc. They have used both empirical approaches and normative methods into their theory. If you look at Plato, is largely philosophical. Okay. If you look at Aristotle, not completely scientific, but more scientific than Plato. So that you can say. Yes, good point. Like as she told, you can also add one more point saying that in political science it's more quantitative, in political philosophy it is more qualitative. Yeah, you can add that point. That will be also one more point of difference you can write. Understood? So understood, this is the method what we are going to study for every topic, but maybe for all topics you are not going to write the notes, it will be only a few topics like 1 or 2 topics, but even for those notes which is already written, for that same approach you have to, once you read the notes, go back to previous year questions. So there you might realize maybe the class notes also is not enough to find some answer, that time you will have to add additional points. Got it? So that's what I told, buy a previous year question paper book, what is that, question bank, and always keep it with you. And again, see, one more doubt that may come, sir, how do remember scholars' name? Lewis Strauss, Andrew Hacker, etc. Repeated revision. There is no other alternative to it. Sir, shall I take medicines for improving my memory? It will not work. If you do repeated revision, it's simple. You see, if you keep meeting a person quite often, you will remember their name. If you meet a person once in a blue moon, you will keep forgetting their name. One of the most undermined aspect of UPSC preparation is revision. Many people don't make time for revision. They are only focusing on completing the syllabus as quickly as possible. It will evaporate. It is of no use. See, if when I say you have read, if you are able to recall 70% of what you have read, then that's a preparation. If you say, I know I have heard somewhere, that is not preparation. Okay, let us say, I think geography has been completed for your batches, for some batches. No batch geography has been completed. History, polity. Okay, so in which act did the British for the first time they introduce representation for the Indians in legislative council? (1858), 1886, there is no law. It is 1861 Indian Councils Act. Now how you will remember this? If you have revised 5 to 6 times, solved questions on it, make mistakes. Once you make a, see, it's like thing, you fall down somewhere, you will be very conscious next time when you go not to fall, because you already fallen once. That is how, see how your body immune system works. Sometimes a new virus attacks, next time the same virus attack, it remembers this foreign body identity. So your mind also works that way. But if you have not solved questions, if you have not revised, 100% you will get confused in the exam. So you see, in exam you have given only one option. Tomorrow I will give 1861, 1858, 1909, 19. You will get confused what is there. Why? Because you lack clarity. Why? Because you have not revised. So for, if you think reading is just listening to a class, you are definitely not going to recall. You are getting the point? It's repeated reading of the same concept 5-6 times that will get into your memory. You will be able to recall, and that's why I told here also. How do you remember scholars? Keep revising them quite often. So every day in a week, keep a day for revision itself. Nothing reading new, just keep revising what you have read. So the more number of times you revise, the more clarity you are going to get. So that is the wonders that revision can make. 60% of the problem, why they make mistakes in prelims or etc., they don't revise. They would have read only once or twice. So what happens in exam? They won't have clarity. Exactly, this is the option. Got it? So you won't have class tomorrow and day after. You will have on Friday. So the class timing will be usually 5:30 to 7:30. They are posting it as 8:30 in the